The original Royal Enfield Himalayan was launched back in 2016 and was, as the name suggests, a bike built specifically for exploring the Indian Himalayas. Therefore, it had to be robust, simple, reliable, and able to take on a wide range of terrain and work in all temperatures. It was powered by a simple air-cooled 4-stroke single pushing out just under 25 horsepower, while the chassis featured a duplex cradle frame with a 21-inch diameter front wheel, a 17-inch rear, 220 millimeters of ground clearance, and long travel suspension able to tackle almost anything. The Indian market took to the Himalayan, and soon other markets followed. In the UK and Europe, we loved its rugged simplicity and bargain price tag when launched of under £4,000. It was for many owners an antidote to the overload of modern living, a robust tool, a dependable all-weather go-anywhere bike. However, there was no hiding the fact the bike was a tad basic, and for European roads underpowered. But all that is about to change with the all-new Himalayan. Enfield has made some major changes, not least with the introduction of an all-new 450cc single-cylinder engine featuring for the first time on an Enfield water-cooling ride-by-wire throttle and double overhead camshafts. A steel frame is all new, as is Showa suspension, and new electronic tech such as riding modes, switchable ABS, and a new TFT dash with connectivity and navigation. The introduction of a new engine is always a big deal, and the new Sherpa 450, which is actually 452cc in capacity, ticks a lot of first-time boxes for Enfield. It's their first water-cooled motor, first ride-by-wire, first DOHC. It is also a whopping 10 kilograms lighter than before. Even more impressive is the performance gains. Compared to the old air-cooled engine, there is a 65% increase in peak power, a 25% increase in peak torque, and a 25% increase in max engine speed. So yes, this is an especially big deal for Enfield. The 452cc single now pushes out 40 horsepower at 8,000 revolutions per minute and 40 Newton meters of torque at 5,500 revolutions per minute, with 90% of that torque available at just 3,000 revolutions per minute. So don't worry, they haven't turned it into a peaky little racer. The old engine would be all revved out by 5,000 revolutions per minute, but the new water-cooled version simply keeps going, impressive for a relatively long stroke motor. Fly-by-wire fueling is also new for Enfield, and allows the introduction of 2 riding modes, performance and eco. An increase in the fuel tank capacity up from 15 liters to 17 liters gives a claimed range of 450 kilometers. The design team have moved the airbox higher to above the engine, meaning the air intake should now sit above even deepish water. This also allows the designers to narrow the seat towards the fuel tank. Much attention has also been given to ensuring exhaust routing keeps the narrow end can out of the way. Nothing from the old Himalayan has been transferred to the new model, which has a completely new chassis and suspension setup. But Enfield has kept with the old bike's DNA, complete with 21-inch or 17-inch wheel combination, long travel suspension, and impressive ground clearance. Non-adjustable 43mm Showa forks have 200mm of travel, and a completely new single shock on the rear has spring preload adjustment and 200mm of travel, up 20mm from the older bike. This gives 230mm of seriously useful ground clearance, 10 mm more than before. Despite the new water-cooled engine saving 10 kilograms, the Himalayan is still weighty at 196 kilograms and only a few kilos lighter than before, but some of this is down to a larger fuel tank, bigger brakes, and beefier forks, not to mention the new electronics. Enfield certainly didn't want to lose any of the robustness of the old bike after all. In India, the new 450 will be used for everything, including 3-up journeys. The roads high in the Himalayas can be described as challenging, to say the least. Perfectly smooth paving that remind you of the Swiss Alps can instantly become a gravel track with potholes big enough to get lost in. Add a complete absence of crash barriers, 3,000 feet drops, cow paths, meandering livestock, deep water running across the road, and the cherry on the top, traffic that can be anything from a horse-drawn cart to a monster truck that isn't slowing down for anyone. And you need a bike you can trust. After 2 long days in the Himalayan saddle, I can confirm that comfort is excellent, especially when you consider the terrain and brutal punishment the new suspension had to endure. The ride is so absorbent and calm that even after a long day of riding, I had no complaints. It's worth mentioning again that this wasn't a road test conducted at the speeds we are used to in the UK and Europe, so areas such as high-speed vibrations and wind protection remain largely unexplored. I can say that the new screen isn't half bad, and that the bike's much improved performance should make it more versatile, and a much more effective real-world tourer able to maintain higher speeds for longer. Shame there isn't a heated grips option nor cruise control, which in theory with the new ride-by-wire throttle would have been relatively easy to offer as an extra. The easy-to-read new full-color TFT clocks make the old bike feel and look prehistoric. There is full map navigation, and turn-by-turn navigation and phone connectivity should you want to listen to music or take calls whilst riding. However, to use the navigation you have to connect your phone, which has to remain unlocked, and thus drains its battery. There is a USB charging point, but now you have a cable connecting you to the bike, something I kept forgetting when stopping to take pictures. The switchgear is simple but not overly intuitive, and the joystick on the left bar is a little vague. You also can't change riding modes or turn off the rear abs while moving.